Mr. Steve says he has no camera. Okay, let's try. I suppose we can just remove him if necessary. 1 second. And yeah, Mr. Steve.
Hello, Hamza. How are you?
I'm all right, mate.
Good, good. Hamza, I want to talk about the Quran, Surah 36, verse 13. Something was revealed to me the other day. I was watching a video about that. I thought it was quite interesting.
What is it that's got you piqued your interest?
Well, it talks about some messengers being sent to a town, and the messengers were initially rejected, and then a third messenger was sent. In some of the one of the tafsir, Tafsir Ibn Kathir, I think it is. It tells you the name of the visitors. Do you know the name of the visitors?
Yes.
Because one of them is called Bulus. The third one that's sent. What's that in? What would that name translate to?
Bulus.
Bulus.
No idea.
Wouldn't translate to Paul.
Maybe.
Because it basically it's the Quran, according to this tafsir, is confirming Paul as a real prophet. And I know that.
Whoa! No, it's not.
Yeah, it is. Have a look. If you look up the
Okay.
Quran and the tafsir,
why are you choosing that tafsir?
because that tafsir is confirming Paul.
What about the ones with different? No, but there's like 4 different explanations with 4 different sets of names. Why are you choosing that one?
Well, all of them happen to mention Antioch, which is a place mentioned in the Bible. Where...
So here's your second problem. Okay, so first problem, there's 4 sets of names. Second problem, it doesn't mention Antioch, but you're assuming it's Antioch.
Well, bring it up on the screen.
Okay.
Let's look at the tafsir.
What according to the tafsir, were they rejected when they went to Antioch, or rejected?
Well, according to the tafsir, the messengers that were sent by Allah. So they were real messengers.
Listen to what I'm saying to you.
And I know what you said. You said
no. Well, answer the question then.
They were rejected.
Right.
Now,
in history, one second. And according to Christian history, where was Christianity first embraced and accepted?
They were first called Christians.
No, where was it first? No, that's where it was first embraced. Truly, Antioch. Okay. Second thing, was Antioch destroyed?
I don't know the history that well.
You don't know that it was Antioch destroyed in history?
As I say, I don't.
The answer is no. Right. The answer is no. Okay.
I don't think that the scripture I looked at said that it needed to be destroyed.
Did it not?
Not that I recall. Do you want to bring it up?
You got selective reading? Okay. Well, you do have selective reading because you chose that particular narration and ignored the other 3. That's the first thing.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a Muslim myself. You know, I've come from a different background.
No, I know.
I'm looking at it. It's one of the Islamic tafsir. So
yeah.
You know, I'm just trying to work out what to make of it because to me, it feels like that the Quran is actually saying that Paul, although he was rejected, he was sent by Allah. And I know that the modern day Muslims are very much against Paul.
See, what you got to understand is this: what tafsir is. Tafsir is not necessarily telling you definitively what the Quran is saying. It's an opinion.
The Quran's very vague on this. So the Quran doesn't tell you the name of the place. It doesn't tell you the name of the people. And I'm assuming that this historical tafsir has got more understanding.
Okay.
We can glean information
this is the point. This is the point I'm trying to say to you. 1 second. Let me find.
So it's chapter 36, verse 13. That's where it starts.
Just bear me a second. Okay.
So
Okay.
what I'm reading here is it looks like what I've got is it's in sort of like the third paragraph. It says, so
No.
we
Yeah.
reinforced them with a third,
Let
means
me
we
explain.
supported and strengthened them with a third
Look,
messenger.
we've already established you have selective reading. Okay. So in the
The
reports
name of the first two messengers
okay.
was
Okay.
Shamun and Yohan, and the
Listen.
name of the third was Bulus,
Listen. In the
and the
reports
city was Antioch.
okay. In the reports he transmitted, Ibn Ishaq reported that it was the city of Antioch, in which there was a king called Antiochus, the son of
Yeah,
Antiochus, who used to worship idols. Allah sent to him 3 messengers whose names were Sadiq, Saduq, and Shalom, and he disbelieved in them.
yeah.
He also narrated from Burayd ibn al-Husayb, Ikrama, Qada, and Azuri that it was Antioch. Some of the imams were not sure that it was Antioch, as we shall see shortly after telling the rest of the story. Okay. So they hastened to disbelieve in them. So we supported and strengthened them with the third messenger. Ibn Jarir narrated from Wahib bin Sulaiman from Shuaib al-Jabi. The names of the first 2 messengers were Shamun and Yohanna, and the name of the third was Bulus. So this is the one you're referring to. Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, okay. Let me continue reading for you. So first thing is the contradictory accounts. Yeah, because
they give some different names.
The
don't
first
they?
3, yeah. So if you didn't read the one you've selected, you would read Sadiq, Saduq, and Shalom. But because this doesn't fit your narrative, you ignore it. Okay, that's the first thing.
Well,
sorry, because
we should be able to relate this story back to maybe something that happened. So if there is a Bible account of it, and then there's also a Quranic account of it,
because
then
it doesn't marry up. Okay, 1 second.
It would marry up with
Shimon,
Yohan, and Bulus. If that's
Shimon,
Paul,
you give yourself away there, dude.
Yeah, well, I'm not Arabic or Hebrew. It's probably
but we know who you got this. We know who you got this argument from. You didn't just read the Quran and find it.
No, I watched a YouTube video. It was two African guys talking to each other.
We know where the argument comes from because the Christian Prince argument.
I didn't watch it on a Christian Prince video, so. But it doesn't really matter. We're just trying to address.
Well, it doesn't mean if the Tafsir says 3 different names that doesn't have any relevance. Does it? Doesn't really matter, does it?
Well, as I say, I think it does because.
Well, it kind of doesn't.
We Christians and Muslims have quite a big argument.
Well, it kind of doesn't because
identity of Paul.
Well, it kind of doesn't.
If there's a Tafsir here that is actually confirming that Paul is sent by Allah, then that is kind of important.
Not really.
Well, why not?
Oh, okay, because like I said, it's called selective reading. You're ignoring the other commentaries.
I'm not ignoring them. I acknowledge them.
Okay, so why? So who was Sadiq? Okay, so who was Sadiq? Saduq, and Shalom?
Well, that particular account, I can't relate it to any previous story. The one account that has most strength that can actually be related back to a previous story is the account that is mentioning the 3 people, including Paul, that I believe is Paul, and that is the account with most strength.
But then what you're doing, you're taking them. No, but what you're doing, understand something. Have you heard of something called Isra'iliyyat?
No.
All right, so Isra'iliyyat is where Mufassirun or Tafsir, those who try to understand the Quran and give like a Tafsir, they'll use Jewish and Christian sources to fill in blanks, if you like.
Is that what they call art scroll or something?
Isra'iliyyat, it's called. So there's no behest upon Muslims to accept these understandings. That's why, for example, in Ibn Kathir's Tafsir on this particular ayah, there's 3 different versions.
Yeah.
There's nothing definitive.
Well, that's problematic from your point of view then, because it means you've got no clear understanding.
What do you mean we have no clear understanding?
Well, because the Quran's vague, and so you then go to your tafsirs and it says 3 different things.
Well, no, it doesn't.
And so you're left clueless.
No, because it's not something that we need to know.
Well, it is.
No.
Because if these messengers are from Allah and you're rejecting them and you're rejecting
Well, they're
the
clearly not,
messengers
are
of
they?
Allah,
Because of if you're trying to say Paul was from Allah and then what he teaches is completely against Islam, then he's not from Allah, is he?
well, I believe that Islam is completely against Allah.
What?
I believe that Islam is wrong. It doesn't align with Paul. It
Well, who
doesn't.
cares what you
Paul,
believe?
Paul aligns with the Old
But
Testament.
who cares what you believe? Paul doesn't
Well,
align with the Old Testament. He's against the Old Testament.
No, he aligns with the Old Testament.
He's completely against it.
Not at all.
Okay, does Paul teach to keep the law or abandon the law?
Paul understands why the law
Does
was
Paul
given
teach
him.
to keep the law or abandon the law?
This is a very
Answer the
interesting
direct
subject.
question. Listen, it's a direct question.
What is the tree of
Answer
knowledge
the
of good
direct
and evil,
question.
Hamza?
Answer that direct question. Yeah.
Paul-
Did Paul teach to keep the law or abandon the law?
Jesus taught that he set us free
Can you answer
from
the question,
law,
please?
and Paul confirmed that.
Can you
in the
answer
Old
the question,
Testament,
please?
Moses
All right,
says
I'm going to
that
ask you
he
one more
should
time,
give
and
the
then
law.
I'm just going to say goodbye. Okay.
Goodbye, Hamza. Don't worry.
Did Paul teach? There you go. You said goodbye yourself because you know you're out your depth, mate. Yeah. The idea that Paul agrees with the Old Testament when the Old Testament is all about keeping the law, and Paul comes along and says no longer to keep the law. How is that in tandem with the Old Testament? It's not even in tandem with Jesus, who said, "Think not I've come to destroy the laws of the prophets before me." He actually teaches, Jesus, according to book of Matthew, that anyone who breaks the least of these commandments and teaches men so, he should be called least in the kingdom of heaven. So according to Jesus' own words, Paul will be the least because he's teaching you to break the commandments. 1 second.
It's actually quite funny because he's now sits here for about 5-10 minutes just trying to actually mull this over. He's looking for interpretations, and but anyway, that's the end of the video. I'll leave it at that. Hope you enjoyed, guys. Have a good one. See you on the next one.